October numbers are in for Lafayette Parish, and we've got some good news that's been rolling through, even though we've had a little bitty dip that popped up in October. Hey, it's Robbie Bro with Real Broker, and we're going to jump right into the market stats. Let's go pull this guy up. In October, we had 267 sales compared to 284 sales. That is a 6% decrease. This is actually the second time this year, every other month besides January. You can see January underperformed the previous January, but we had a 8-month streak of outperforming the previous month. And while we did have a little bit of a dip right there, we are still currently 5.3% ahead of closed units in Lafayette Parish than we were in the previous year. So things are still moving along ever so slightly. Dollar volume, very similar story, 81.67 or $697 million. When we compare that to, within $100,000 of closed dollar volume, slightly off in between. So, real close. Dollar volume ends up being we're right at a 9% increase compared to where we were this time last year. A little bit of a drop off from last month, right at 9%. But overall, things are looking pretty good. So obviously, we always like to double check to see what's going on in the market, where things are heading. I always like to double check to see what new listings are doing. So supply side of the curve, we're at 395 new listings for October compared to 361. Small, pretty decent little increase right there, just under 5% just under 8%, over 8% from different increase compared to where we were this time last year. 5% increase year to date. So we're just a little bit ahead of where we were as far as the total number of new listings that are coming through. So what does the demand happen to look like? Demand is running a similar little story. So we're going to look at pending sales. Last year we had 283. We had 295 for October versus October. That's a 7% increase in total demand. Increase in total demands right at 7.64%. Basically dead even. We were a slight increase as far as demand's concerned. We're 5% increase year to date, year over year, 7.5% increase year over year when we're looking at everything from January through October. Steady Eddie, nothing super crazy, but at the end of the day, that's kind of one of the things that we want to end up seeing. We want to have fewer. We don't want to have these big ups and downs, because the harder the faster that tree grows, the harder that sucker tends to fall. So, lots of news that's been popping up in the mortgage world. We've been hearing quite a few things with the mortgage world. Trump was announcing being able to push a 50-year mortgage, and this is one of the things that they're talking about to be able to fix affordability. I'm not a fan of the 50-year mortgage. You may be able to save yourself a couple $100 a month, but over the life of the loan, the cost to be able to cover that mortgage is almost double what it would be if you were to end up doing a 30-year fix. I'm not sure what all the details are. It's very possible that he's bringing crazy news out to be able to change that. There's not a whole lot of details that are out yet, but on its face, 50-year mortgage, not a good idea. I think sticking with the 30 is probably about as safe as it's going to be. At the end of the day, what's going to end up happening is if you end up running on a 50-year mortgage, you may be saving a couple $100 a month, but your equity drop is next to nothing, even 10 years into owning that house. So not a good move if this is something that you're looking at building long-term wealth. But to be seen, we'll kind of keep an eye on things that pop up. There may be more details that may change it. As of right now, not a fan, but that's essentially what's popping up. Mortgage news. We are seeing rates that are still holding steady at around 6, low 6s, maybe dip a little bit into the 5s for our government loans. Things are relatively well whenever we're looking at interest rates and what they're doing. So next thing we always like to double check, what is the average sales price? Average sales price is, we had a $89,000 sales price. Oh, let me make sure I got my graph back up here so we can see. 305,985 this year compared to last year. 287,304. Nice little increase. We ended up having we had a couple more big homes that ended up closing this time last year compared to years before, which is actually what the big jump up from August is. Again, I still think this is going to be a little bit of an outlier that's running through. As far as homes that are available for sale, you'll see this graph is trending up. Not necessarily a bad thing. We're at 1,315 homes compared to this time last year. We're at 1,252. That's a little over 65 more homes on the market in Lafayette Parish, from 0 to $1 million plus. And while it seems like things are getting big, as we always talk about, if there's, what happens, how are rates or prices ever going to come down? And the only way for that to ever happen is we have to have so much supply. And you can actually see when 2019, our last normal market, 2018, 2019, we were at 1,848 homes that were available for sale. So still a good ways to go before we get into pre-COVID inventory numbers. But overall, market is doing okay. A little bit of hesitancy that's going on with interest rates. I do believe that we have seen the worst of it when it comes to the sevens and the upper spots. We should see this to slowly trickle down. I do think this is also an opportunity for folks that are interested in making moves while there's a little bit of a slowdown during the winter months. This is typically buyers. If you're watching right now, make sure you pay attention to this. This is typically when sellers get a little bit more antsy because there's not as much showing activity, and it could be an opportunity for you to be able to get a little bit better equity position if you're trying to make that move for the new year, which there is still plenty of time. So if you got any questions, interested in finding out what your equity position is, feel free to reach out to me. You can catch me on my personal cell, 337-658-5690. You shoot me a DM. As always, we will see you next time.